is Naomi with Sword and Steel, and today we'll be looking through this new Battletome of the Ossiarch Bonereapers. Alright, so since I opened the Feast of Bones, I've been very excited to read through these, and let's do it! The Ossiarch Bonereapers exist to conquer. They seek nothing less than to craft a new order from the bones of the old. Those who fail to meet their tithe, whether through choice or necessity, face a terrible fate. They will be callously torn apart, their flesh sorted from the skeleton, and their body from the soul, until they become nothing more than raw material. Then, from their remains, from the very essence of who they once were, new Bone Reapers will be made. This is the terrible truth of the Ossiarchs. They turn their victims into more of their kind, and like death itself, they cannot be stopped. Well, that sounds fun. Oh, look at that. Ooh. Look at that. That is so creepy. Oh my gosh, there's a tentacle, bony tentacle guy. Okay. Reapers of the Dead. So, more lore behind the Ossiarchs. Ooh, look at that. What lovely artwork. Did you see the front as well? Look at those eyes. Very nice. The Type of Bones. The Ossiarch Necropolises. The Dreadworks of Nagash. Rise of a Mortarch. Of Bone and Soul. So much lore to enjoy, which I shall not be doing in this. The Legions Immortal. All of these, all the background of all the various Catracros, Mortarch of the Necropolis, Arcavlis Xantos, Vok Mortian, Master of the Bone Type. That's the one in the new kit, Feast of Bones. And he is nasty. Also pretty awesome. Particularly if you stick him in the battalion that is offered in that one. Ooh, haven't seen that. Look, it's a catapult. Neat. Mortic Crawlers. Wow, there's so much going on here. Wow, look at those. Oh my goodness, they do like their spines. Look at that guy. Now this is an impressive model. Catacros, Mortarch of the Necropolis. Look at that. He even has a little guy holding up a scroll so he can read it. He doesn't hold up his own scrolls. Well, I suppose he's busy giving instructions. So much going on there. Really nice. I really like that guy. Look at that. He is sitting on some sort of mech with feet. The Mortison Soulmason. I enjoy his style. Oh my gosh. This one is Arcavlos Santos. Look at that. Nice weapon too. That's Vokmortian, Master of the Bone Tithe. He's in the Feast of Bones. Mortison Soul Reaper. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Look at what it's doing to that soul. Nice model. Arcane the Black. And Nagash. Looking awesome as usual. Nice weapons. Acropolis Stalkers. Another one you get in Feast of Bones. Mortec Guard. Ooh, facing Stormcast Eternals. Liege Cavalos. Wow. If you want to go a more gory version, neat. Facing some Skaven. Morghast Arcai. Gothazar Harvester. Look at what's going on here. Ah, he's the one that likes to collect them all. Isn't that nice? Mortec Crawler. There's a slingshot. Look at that. A slingshot. That has got to have some nasty abilities. I like this guy. Everything's looking good. Or he's the idle worker that you can never get to work. Okay, for a moment I thought he was holding a cup of coffee or something. I think it's a hammer. Alright, Deathly Supremacy. Here they're just describing each of the different models. How to paint them. Alright, so the allegiance abilities of the Ossiarch Bonereaper Legions. What do we have? Lords of the Ossiarch Empire. You can include Nagash and or Arcane in Ossiarch Bonereapers armies, even though they do not have the Ossiarch Bonereapers keyword on their Warscroll. If you do so, they gain the Ossiarch. If you do so, they gain the Ossiarch Bonereapers keyword on their Warscroll, but you cannot include any mercenary units in your army. Ossiarch Bonereaper Legions. If your army is an Ossiarch Bonereapers army, you can give it an Ossiarch Bonereaper Legion keyword. Mortis Praetorians, Petrifix Elite, Staliarch Lords, Ivory Host, Null Myriad, and Crematorians. If a model already has the Legion keyword, it cannot gain another one. Deathless Warriors. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly unit that has the Hecatos keyword, or is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly mortal Hecatos, or is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers hero on a 6 that wound or mortal wound is negated. Cool. Ranks unbroken by descent. Do not take battle shock tests for friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers. Broken. In addition, if your army is an Ossiarch Bonereapers army, you cannot use command points. Okay. Instead, you use Relentless Discipline points. At the start of each battle round, before determining who has the first turn, you receive 1 Relentless Discipline point for each Ossiarch Bonereapers hero that is on the battlefield. You receive 1 additional Relentless Discipline point for each Warscroll battalion in your army and each friendly liege that is on the battlefield, and 3 additional Relentless Discipline points if Catacross is your general and is on the battlefield. Then, roll a dice for each friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit on the battlefield, including all the heroes above. For each 6, you receive 1 additional Relentless Discipline point. Relentless Discipline points are used in the same manner as command points, but can only be used for command abilities that appear on a Warscroll that has the Ossiarch Bonereapers keyword, for Ossiarch Bonereaper Legion command abilities, and for the Unstoppable Advanced command ability below. When you generate your Relentless Discipline points at the start of the battle round, any that you have left over from the previous battle round are lost. How interesting. Unstoppable Advance. You can use this command ability in your movement phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly unit that has the Hecatos keyword or is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Mortek Hecatos or is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers hero. Add 3 to that unit's move characteristic in that phase. It can still run or charge if it does not run. You cannot pick the same unit to benefit from this command ability more than once per phase. Designer note. Many Ossiarch Bonereapers command abilities do not require a hero to be nearby for you to use it. These command abilities represent orders issued by the leader of the unit. In addition, some abilities allow you to return slain models to a unit. When you do so, set up the models one at a time within 1 inch of a model from the unit they are returning to. This can be a model returned earlier in the phase. Returning models can only be set up within 3 inches of an enemy unit if any of the models from the unit they are returning to are already within 3 inches of that enemy. Alright, command traits and artifacts of power. Don't think I'll go through all of these this time. Can have a glance. Oh, neat. So, look at that. These commander traits are only for Liege Cavalos. And this one is for Mortisans only. And that one is for Liege Cavalos only. And that one is for the Mortisan Bone Shaper only. Very specific. And this one is for the Mortisan Soul Mason only. Mortisan Soul Reaper. Spell Lures. Okay, let's look at the spells. Arcane Command. Arcane Command has a casting value of 5. If successfully cast, you receive D3 Relentless Discipline points. Empower Nadirite Weapons. Empower Nadirite Weapons has a casting value of 5. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit with the Nadirite Weapons ability that is wholly within 24 inches of the caster and visible to them. Until the start of your next hero phase, that unit's Nadirite Weapons ability causes 2 hits to be scored on an unmodified hit roll of 5+ instead of 6, or 4+ instead of 6 for charging Cavalos Death Riders unit attacking with Nadirite Spears. Neat. Protection of Nagash. Protection of Nagash has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, roll a dice each time a wound or mortal wound is allocated to the caster. On a 5+, that wound or mortal wound is negated. If any wounds or mortal wounds are allocated to the caster and not negated, and the caster is not slain, and the caster is not slain, remove them from the battlefield after all of the wounds or mortal wounds have been allocated, and set them anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from any enemies. After setting up the model, the spell is unbound. Neat. Interesting. Reinforced Battle Shields. Reinforced Battle Shields has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit armed with shields or Nadirite battle shields that is wholly within 24 inches of the caster and visible to them. Until the start of your next hero phase, roll a dice each time you allocate a mortal wound to that unit. On a 5+, that mortal wound is negated. Nice. Drain Vitality. Drain Vitality has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster that is visible to them. Until your next hero phase, reroll unmodified hit rolls of 6 for attacks made by that unit, and reroll unmodified save rolls of 6 for attacks that target that unit. Mortal Contract. Mortal Contract has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster that is visible to them. For the rest of the battle, roll a dice at the end of each phase during which any attacks made by that unit inflicted by a damage... For the rest of the battle, roll a dice at the end of each phase during which any attacks made by that unit inflicted any damage on a friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit. On a 3+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. You cannot pick the same unit to be affected by the spell more than once per hero phase. For the rest of the battle. Well, that's really nasty. For the rest of the battle, roll a dice. Each time it inflicts damage on one of your friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers, and on a 3+, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. For the rest of the battle. That sounds really nasty. Right, what do we have? Ah, the different guilds. Legions, yes. So, Mortis Praetorian's Legion has the Dread Legion, subtract 1 from bravery characteristic of... Right, so for these, I'm assuming it's like much of the others. We've got an ability that affects everyone, a command ability option, a command trait for your general, and then an artifact of power that has to be used before you choose different artifact of power. Okay. Subtract 1 from bravery characteristic of enemy units while there are within 12 inches of any friendly Mortis Praetorian units. That's very specific. This one also is very specific of Mortis Praetorian units. Oh, never mind. Mortis Praetorian units is the name of the group. Subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units while they are within 12 inches of any friendly Mortis Praetorian units. So unfair because they don't have to roll their battle shock tests. You can use this command ability at the end of the enemy charge phase. If you do so, pick one friendly Mortis Praetorian unit that is either has the Hekatos keyword or is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Mortec Hekatos, or is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Mortis Praetorian's hero. Until the end of the turn, you can re-roll hit rolls for attacks made by that unit that target an enemy unit that made a charge move in the same turn. The end? Okay. Nice. Catacross's chosen command trait. Once per battle, at the start of your hero phase, if this general is on the battlefield, you can receive D3 additional relentless discipline points. And your artifact of power is pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, change the rend characteristic of that weapon to -3. Nasty. So here we have the Petrifix Elite. Add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target their units. Bludgeon. You can use this command ability in the combat phase. If you do so, pick one friendly unit that either has the Hekatos keyword, is wholly within 6 inches of friendly Mortec Hekatos, or is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Petrifix Elite hero. In that combat phase, improve the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by that unit by 1. Nice. You cannot pick the same unit to benefit from this command ability more than once per phase. That's nasty. His command trait is Mighty Archaeosin. Add 2 to this general's wound characteristic. Cool. And the artifact of power is the first wound allocated to the bearer in each phase is negated. God Bone Armor. Staliarch Lords. Their units can run and still charge later in the same turn. Well, that's nasty. you can use this command ability in your movement phase. If you do, pick a friendly Staliarch Lord's unit that has a mount and either is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Mortec Hecatos or is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Staliarch Lord's hero. The unit can retreat in that phase and still charge later in the same turn as long as it did not run. His command trait is at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy hero within 3 inches of this general. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this general that target that enemy hero, but subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by this general that target any other unit. Got it. You can roll D3 additional dice when this liege uses their unstoppable charge ability. Ivory Host Legion. Simmering Rage. At the start of the combat phase, each friendly Ivory Host unit that is within 6 inches of a friendly Ivory Host model that currently has any wounds allocated to it becomes subject to Rage until the end of that phase. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by a unit that is subject to Rage, but subtract 1 from save rolls for attacks that target a unit that is subject to Rage. Temper Fury. You can use this command ability in the combat phase. If you do, pick one friendly Ivory Host unit that is subject to Rage and either has the Hecatos keyword or includes a Mortec Hecatos, or is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Ivory Host hero. In that phase, do not subtract 1 from save rolls for attacks that target that unit because of its Rage, but still add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by that unit. Okay. Interesting. The command trait is, in each of your hero phases, roll a dice for this general. On a 5+, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons used by this general for the rest of the battle. And Beastbone Blade. Pick one of the bear's melee weapons, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of that weapon. Oh, so you could add 2. I don't know. Feels like some of the other ones are. I'll add 1 to hit rolls for attacks. Subject to Rage. That's pretty good, though. Still. I like the other ones better than that one, but maybe I'm missing. Null Myriad. Eldritch Gnolls. Each time a friendly Null Myriad unit is affected by a spell or endless spell, you can roll a dice. If you do so on a 5+, ignore the effects of that spell or endless spell on that unit. Cool. That could be really irritating for heavy wizard armies, or wizard-heavy armies. Hold Fast. You can use this command ability before you use the Eldritch Gnoll ability for a unit that either has the Hecatos keyword or is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Mortec Hecatos or is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Null Myriad hero. That unit is not affected by the spell or endless spell on a 2+. That unit is not affected by the spell or endless spell on a 2+ instead of a 5+. Well, that would be really annoying. That sounds fun. Unsettling and Sinister command trait. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target this general. In addition, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units while they are within 3 inches of this general. And Baleful Blade, artifact of power. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. Do not make save rolls for attacks made with that weapon. And wounds inflicted by that weapon cannot be negated when they are allocated to a model. The wounds can be healed later in the battle. Neat. Do not make save rolls for attacks made with that weapon. And the wounds cannot be negated. Well, that seems pretty. I like this one. Null Myriad. I mean, rather useless if you're not facing someone who has lots of wizards, I guess. But I like that one if you are. Crematorians. Immolation. Roll a dice each time a friendly crematorian's model is slain by an attack made with a melee weapon before the slain model is removed from play. Add 1 to the roll if the slain model is a hero or a monster. On a 5+, pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of the slain model. That unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Nice. You can use this command ability in the combat phase. If you do so, pick one friendly crematorian's unit that either has the Hecator's keyword, or is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Morticus Hecatos, or is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Morticus hero. Do not apply the cover modifier to save rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by that crematorian's unit in that phase. Okay. Command trait, Wrathful Avenger. If this general is slain, add 2 to the immolation dice roll instead of 1, and if the roll is successful, inflict D3 mortal wounds on the unit instead of 1. So that one was the immolation ability that likes to inflict 1 mortal wound on a 5+. This one is add 2 dice for that 5+ instead of 1, and the successful, and if it's successful, it's D3 mortal wounds instead of 1. That's only for generals, so. Artifact power. Searing Blade. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, add 1 to the damage characteristic of that weapon. Cool. I guess this would be really neat for a lot of guys that you don't care if they die. Ooh, the bone type nexus. So, as I will be breaking open this, I'll just go over all of that in that video. It's awesome. It does nasty damage. And looks like we've got a battle plan. Path to Glory. Rewards and stuff. The Mega Warscroll Battalion. Little Warscroll Battalions. So this one is the Mortex Shield Corps. You just need a Vokmortian, 1 Mortison Bone Shaper, 1 Mortison Soul Reaper, 1 Mortison Soul Mason, and 3 Mortic Guard units. Once per turn, you can use the Shield Wall command ability for a unit from this battalion without spending a relentless discipline to do so. Cool. If I recall correctly, the Shield Wall, I think that was the Mortic Guard's ability. Mortic Guard. Yeah. This one is, if you do so, pick one friendly Mortic Guard unit that includes a Mortic Hecatos. You can reroll save rolls for attacks that target that unit until the end of the combat phase. So, in this battalion, once per turn, you get to do it for free. Reroll saves. This Mortison Trident just requires a Mortison Bone Shaper, a Mortison Soul Reaper, a Mortison Soul Mason, and 1 Gothazar Harvester. Each Mortison from this battalion can attempt to cast 1 extra spell. If it is within 18 inches of the Gothazar Harvester from the same battalion, and the Gothazar Harvester is within 3 inches of any enemy units. I get the feeling that this Gothazar Harvester really likes to be within 3 inches of the enemy units. If you recall, it was the big, enormous beast that had fresh corpses on his back. Yeah. Catacrosin Deathglaive. 2 Necropolis Stalker units, and 1 Morghast Harbinger's unit. After armies are set up, but before the first battle round begins, if all units from this battalion are wholly within 12 inches of this battalion's Morghast Harbinger units, you can move any units from this battalion up to 6 inches. So you should do that. Yeah, if you have 2 Necropolis Stalker units and 1 Morghast Harbingers, set them up properly and move your 6 inches. Cool. That's fine. Aegis Immortal Battalion. 1 Morghast Archive unit and 2 Immortus Guard units. The The Morghast Archive unit from this battalion has the Soulbound Protector's ability from the Immortus Guard Warscroll. In addition, when you use the Soulbound Protector's ability for a unit from this battalion, and the dice roll is 5+, the wound or mortal wound is negated instead of being allocated to a unit from this battalion. Soulbound Protectors in Immortus Guard did... It says, roll a dice before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers hero while it is within 3 inches of any friendly units with this ability. A 2+, you must allocate that wound or mortal wound to a friendly unit with this ability that is within 3 inches of that Ossiarch Bonereapers hero instead of allocating it to the Ossiarch Bonereapers hero. And a 2+. Wow, these guys really are great at protecting their heroes. And now your big Morghast Archive has it too. Cool. Cavalos Lance. Arc Cavalos Xantos, or 1 Liege Cavalos, and 2 Cavalos Death Rider units. Units from this battalion can charge even if they retreated earlier in the same turn if they are wholly within 12 inches of the Liege from the same battalion when the charge roll is made. In addition, once per turn you can use the Death Rider Wedge command ability for a unit from this battalion without spending a relentless discipline to do so. So Death Rider Wedge sounds like Cavalos Death Riders. Yeah, so that would do. You can use this command ability when a friendly Cavalos Death Riders unit that includes a Mortec Hecatos finishes a charge move. You can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of these Death Riders and roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that Death Riders unit. For each 5+, the unit suffers 1 mortal wound. In addition, in the following combat phase, that Cavalos Death Riders unit can move an extra 3 inch when it piles in. Oh, that's really nasty. And look, if you take the spears, they have a 2-inch range anyway. Well, that's pretty nasty. And if you have it in this battalion, you can do it for free once per turn. Vicious. Mortec Ballistari. 1 Mortison Bone Shaper, 1 Mortec Guard unit, and 2 Mortec Crawlers. Roll a dice before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a Mortec Crawler from this battalion while it is within 3 inches of the Mortec Guard from the same battalion. And add 2 to the roll if the Mortec Crawler is within 3 inches of the Mortison Bone Shaper from the same battalion. On a 4+, that wound or mortal wound is allocated to the Mortec Guard instead of the Mortec Crawler. Wow, they really do like protecting their things. And they can return slain guys in some cases. These seem pretty nasty. Just a little. Ah, we're at the Warscrolls. Catacross, Mortarch of the Necropolis. So, first, how much does this guy cost? He is... Catacross Mortarch. He is 500 points and is unique. Okay. Alright, 500 points. 20 wounds. Moves 4. Okay. Well, you saw him. He was like standing there, not intending on going anywhere. So, moves 4. 3+ to save. 10 bravery. He has all these different things. He is armed with the Inda Cat and the Shield Immortus. So all these different weapons, I assume, are all his little guys. Yeah, he's got companions. Catacross is accompanied by a Gnosis Scrollbearer that attacks with the Nadirite Dagger, a Prime Necrophorus that attacks with the Soul Reaver Greatblade, an Aviarch Spymaster that attacks with a Spirit Dagger, and a Liege Immortus that attacks with the Nadirite Dueling Blades. Cool. And interestingly, as he increases in wounds, the the ally, the companions go down. But he goes up in attacks. Cool. That's pretty neat. So they just flock around him, dying until he's the only one left. That's pretty cool. So the companions that currently accompany Catacross vary depending on the number of wounds suffered by this model, as we saw. You can only use the companion abilities on the right for the companions currently accompanying Catacross, and only those companions can attack. For all of the rules purposes, companions are treated in the same manner as a mount. Deadly Combination. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with the Shield Immortis is 6, yep. The attack inflicts 2 mortal wounds on the target in addition to any normal damage. At the start of your hero phase, if this model is on the battlefield, that's the big guy, him, you can pick up to 3 different friendly Ossiarch Bonereaper units wholly within 24 inches of this model. For each of those units, you can either heal up to 3 wounds allocated to that unit. If no wounds are allocated, you can turn. I knew there'd be ways to get guys back. There you are. Other than the Mortian, whatever his name was. You can return, equal to a combined wounds characteristic of 3 or less. Yep. Very death-like. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a Netherite weapon is 6, that attack scores 2 hits to the target. Instead of 1, make a wound and save roll for each hit. His command abilities are Endless Duty. You can use this command ability in your shooting phase or combat phase. If you do, pick 1 friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit that is wholly within 12 inches of a model. With this command ability, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of weapon used by that unit. And it looks like you get a bunch of these relentless points that you can use. It's interesting how much access you're going to have to these abilities. Supreme Lord of the Bonereaper Legions. Oh right, he's the one that the rules suggest that you use as your general. You can use this command ability in your hero phase if Catacross is your general. If you do so, until your next hero phase, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers units while they are wholly within 18 inches of this model, and add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target friendly Mortis Praetorian units while they are wholly within 18 inches of this model. You can only use this command ability once per hero phase. Companion abilities. Once per turn, you can roll a dice when your opponent receives a command point. If you do so on a 4+, that command point is lost. That is so nasty. Once per turn, you just do it. Aviarch Spymaster is there, you just, yep, gone. No command point for you. Gnosis Scrollbearer. At the start of your hero phase, you can pick 1 enemy unit that is on the battlefield. Until your next hero phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit that target friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers. And it's just an enemy unit. Don't have to see him. Doesn't have to be in range of anything. He just subtracts 1 from hit rolls. Until your next hero phase. Nasty. So nasty. Prime Necrophoros. When you use this model's Supreme Lord of the Bonereaper Legion's command ability, if it affects friendly Ossiarch Bonereaper units while they are wholly within 36 inches of this model instead of wholly within 18 inches of this model. Curious, who do you lose first? Got Gnosis Scrollbearer. Okay, it makes sense, I guess. The Gnosis Scrollbearer is the one you lose first. Then you lose the Primus Necrophoros, that ability there. And then the Aviarch Spymaster with the command point taking away of it. That's neat. Then the Leech Immortis. What a neat model. And then we have Nagash, and Arcane the Black, and Arcavalos Xantos. Let's see, Arcavalos Xantos costs... Arcavalos Xantos costs 220 points, and he is unique. So, 7 wounds, move 12 inches, 3+ save, 10 bravery. He is armed with a dark lance and a netherite battle shield, and his mount can do hooves, teeth, and barbed tails. The dark lance has a 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, rend -1, and 2 damage. That's pretty standard. His battle shield looks like he can do a shield bash of 1 attack, 3+ to hit, 4+ to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. And the hooves, teeth, and barbed tails, on the other hand, deal 6 attacks, 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, rend -1, and 1 damage. Wow, that's nice. So his Dark Lance has a damage characteristic of 3 instead of 2 if this model made a charge move in the same turn. He has Hatred for the Living, so he rerolls wound rolls of 1 for attacks made that target order and destruction unit, and you can reroll any wound rolls. And you can reroll any wound rolls for attacks made by this model that target chaos units. He has an unstoppable charge. After this model makes a charge move, you can pick 1 enemy unit within 1 inch of this model and roll a number of dice equal to the charge roll of that charge move. For each 6, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. In addition, this model can move an extra 3 inches when it piles in if it made a charge move in the same turn. That could be pretty savage. Alright, Endless Duty. You can use this command ability in your shooting phase or any combat phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit that is wholly within 12 inches of a model with this command ability. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of weapons used by that unit in that phase. You cannot pick the same unit to benefit from this command ability more than once per phase. That's really nice. So there's a lot of guys that hit on 3s and wound on 3s. And then the more grunt guys are hit on 4s and wound on 4s. So adding 1 to attacks and another one adding 1 to hit rolls, that's really nice. Still their breath. You can use this command ability in your shooting phase or any combat phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Mortis Praetorians unit that is wholly within 24 inches of this model. Reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by that unit that target order and destruction units. You can reroll any wound rolls for attacks made by that unit that target chaos units. He very much doesn't like the living. Mortison Boneshaper. Alright, look at that guy. It's like he's got fingers on his head and shoulders. I like him. So, Mortison Boneshaper, he costs... Mortison Boneshaper costs 130. And the one below him is going to cost 120, and the one that's similar to him costs 140. So 120 to 140 for these wizards. Yeah. So he has 5 wounds, 5-inch movement, 4+ saving throw, and 10 bravery. He's armed with Ossified Talons, which has 2 attacks, 3+ to hit, 4+ to wound, and 1 damage. Sounds like you should not get him in melee. In your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit within 6 inch of this model. You can either heal up to 3 wounds that have been allocated to that unit. If no wounds have been allocated to that unit, you can return a number of slain models to it that have a combined wounds characteristic of 3 or less. So you don't have to roll for this. Do you see that? Just in your hero phase. Return 3 models back, or if they're 1 inch, but just here you go. And he's a wizard, so he has access to other spells. And his regular spell is Shard Storm, which has a casting value of 5. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit and roll 1 dice for each model that from that unit that is within 18 inches of the caster and visible to them. For each 6, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. That's not bad at all. Hey, like the branch witch has to be within 9 inches of it. And he needs to be only in 18 inches of it. Well, on the other hand, the branch witch is only 80 points, and you are 130 points. But you healed 3 wounds without having to roll. Jeez. Mortison Soul Reaper, the 120 wizard. 5 wounds, 5 move, 4+ save, 10 bravery. Equipped with the scythe, which is 3 attacks, 3+2 hit, 3+2 wound, rend -1, 2 damage. So a bit better in melee. Deathly Touch. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a Soul Reaper scythe is 6, that attack inflicts 2 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. Cool. Soul Reaper. You can reroll hit rolls for attacks made with a Soul Reaper if the target unit has 5 or more models. Nice. And he's a wizard, and he has Soul Blast, which has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, you can either roll 1 dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of the caster, or roll 1 dice for 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster that is visible to them. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 3, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 4+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Well, Arcane Bolt is casting value of 5. And it's also within 18 inches. Or could also be within 3 inches. I mean, this one has the opportunity to get D3 mortal wounds on something that would possibly only be 1 mortal wound. But just casting value of 7 versus casting value of 5. Hard to say. And the Mortison Soulmason. This one was 140. Oh, right, he's the one lounging as something is carrying him around. 6 wounds versus the other side 5 wounds. This one has 6 wounds, 5-inch move, 5+ save, 10 bravery. The other guys, they didn't have 5 save, did they? Felt like they were lower. Of course, I can't turn the page now. 4+, yeah. Yeah, they had 4+ save, so he's 5+ save, but with 1 extra wound. And he has a mount. So he has the Soul Mason Staff, 2-inch range, 2 attacks, 4+ to hit, 3+ to wound, rend -1, D3 damage. Not amazing, but not bad. And he has his Ossified Claws, which are 2 attacks, 4+ to hit, 3+ to wound, rend -1, and 1 damage. He has the Mortec Throne that he's sitting on. At the end of your hero phase, roll a dice for this model. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 5, this model can attempt to cast Soul Guide, even if a casting attempt has already been made for that spell in the same phase. On a 6, this model can attempt to cast Soul Guide D3 more times, even if a casting attempt has already been made for this spell. So, in the same phase. So, Soul Guide has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick one friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit wholly within 24 inches of the caster that is visible to them. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by that unit until your next hero phase. Hey, it doesn't say you can't stack that. So, nope, it doesn't. Oh, well, there'd be no reason to restack it. Never mind, but you would want to use it on multiple units. Cool. Vok Mortion is in Feast of Bones. The Mortic Guard are in Feast of Bones. Cavalos Death Riders. So, Cavalos Death Riders cost... Cavalos Death Riders, you can have 5 is the minimum, and they are 180 points. But if you hit the maximum at 15, they are 480 points, and they're battle line. Cool. So, 3 wounds each for a 5-man unit. Nice. 3 wounds each, 12-inch movement, 4+ save, 10 bravery, and they have either Netherite blades and shields or Netherite spears and shields. And they also have their hooves and teeth for their steeds. So the Netherite blade is 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3+ to hit, 4+ to wound, rend -1, and 1 damage, versus the spear, which is 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3+ to hit, 4+ to wound, no rend, and 1. So you really want to decide whether you want range or -1 rend. Between that two. Necrophoros. 1 in every 5 models in this unit can be a Necrophoros. Add 1 to the run and roll and charge rolls for a unit that includes any Necrophori. Mortic Hecatos. 1 model in this unit can be a Mortic Hecatos. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that model's Netherite blade or Netherite spear. And as you noticed, Mortic Hecatos was in a lot of various things, so you probably want these Cavalos Death Riders. Is there anything else that created a Mortic Hecatos? So the Mortic Guard, you can also make a Mortic Hecatos. So these and the Mortic Guard give you this important model. Netherite weapons. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with this unit's Netherite blades or Netherite spears is 6, that attack scores 2 hits on the target instead of 1. Make a wound roll and save roll for each hit. For attacks made with Netherite spears, though, 2 hits are scored on a 5 instead of 6 if the unit made a charge move in the same turn. And their Death Rider Wedge. Ah, yes, we read that earlier on. Now the Immortus Guard. Immortus Guard cost... Mortis Guard. Minimum of 3, maximum of 12, 200 points for 3. So they have 4 wounds each, 5 movement, 3+ to save, 10 bravery, and they are all wielding Dread Halberds and Netherite battle shields. So the Dread Halberd has a 2-inch range, 2 attacks, 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, rend -2, 2 damage. And the Netherite battle shield is 1-inch range, 2 attacks, 4+ to hit, 3+ to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. So these guys could really use just one of those wizards that give them extra attacks. Yeah. Deadly Combination. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a Netherite battle shield is 6, that attack inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. Nice. Soulbound Protectors. Ah, yes, we read that one earlier. Crushing Assault. You can use this command ability in your combat phase after a friendly Immortus Guard unit has fought in that phase for the first time. If you do so, if that unit is within 3 inches of an enemy unit, it can make a pile move and then attack with its Netherite battle shields for a second time. Well, that's nice. Immortus Guard, Necrotic Stalkers. The Morghast are also in that video. Ah, the Mortic Crawler. There it is. Let's see what you do. Wounds. 12 wounds. Oh, how much do you cost? Mortic Crawler, 200 points. Behemoth. Artillery and Behemoth. 12 wounds, movement 4 inches, 4 plus save, 10 bravery. A Mortic Crawler is a single model armed with a dread catapult, and he has a crew. This model has a crew of Mortic engineers that attack with crawler tools. For the rule's purpose, they are treated as a mount. So, before shooting with a dread catapult, choose either the Necrotic Skulls, Cauldron of Torment, or Cursed Still weapon characteristics for that attack. Each dread catapult can only make 1 Cauldron of Torment and 1 Cursed Still attack per battle. Oh, that's very important to note. So the Necrotic Skulls, which I guess would be the base one, is minimum range 6 inches, maximum range 36 inches, 3 attacks, 2 plus to hit, 3 plus to wound, no rend, and damage is based on wound suffer. Starts at 5 damage. Cool. And the Crawler's tools are 6 attacks, 3 plus to hit, 4 plus to wound, and no rend, and 1 damage. Now, the Cauldron of Torment and the Cursed Still that you get to use once also has that 6-inch range to 36-inch range, but it has special abilities. So the Cauldron of Torment. Do not use the attack sequence for an attack made with a Cauldron of Torment. Instead, pick 1 enemy unit that is in range of the attack and roll 1 dice for each model in that target unit. That sounds nasty. Add the modifier for the Cauldron of Torment shown in the damage table above. If the result is equal to or greater than the unmodified bravery characteristic of the target unit, 1 model from that unit is slain. Add the modifier for the shown. If the result, pick 1 enemy unit that is in range of the attack and roll 1 dice for each model in the target unit. If the result is equal to or greater than the unmodified bravery characteristic of the target unit, 1 model from that unit is slain. No bonus, and then as he suffers more wounds, it slowly gets worse. Okay. Cursed Still. Do not use the attack sequence for an attack made with a Cursed Still. Instead, pick 1 enemy model that is in range of the attack and roll 2d6. Add the modifier for Cursed Still shown on the damage table above to the roll. If the result is equal to or greater than the wounds characteristic of the target, it is slain. Note that the chance of slaying the target of Cursed Still increases as the attacking model suffers damage. As you get more wounds, the Necrotic Skulls go down in power, and so does the Cauldron of Torment, but the Cursed Still goes up in power. Neat. Oh my goodness. Gothazar Harvester. Oh, the big beastie. How much does he cost? Gothazar Harvester costs 200 points, and he is a behemoth. Okay, so he has 10 wounds. He moves 6. 4 plus save, 10 bravery. Gothazar Harvester is a single model armed with 1 of the following weapon options: Soul Crusher Bludgeons, Ossified Hooves and Tail, and Death's Head Maw, or Soul Cleaver Sickles, Ossified Hooves and Tail, and Death's Head Maw. So the options are Soul Cleaver Sickles or Soul Crusher Bludgeons. Alright, so the Death's Head Maw has a 16-inch range initially, 4 attacks, 3 plus to hit, 3 plus to wound, rend -1, 1 damage. And if you choose the Soul Cleaver Sickles, that has 1-inch range, 6 attacks initially, 3 plus to hit, 3 plus to wound, rend -2, and 2 damage. And the Soul Crusher Bludgeons are the same exactly, so they must have special effects that make them different. The Ossified Hooves and Tails are 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 3 plus to hit, starts off with 2 plus to wound, rend -1, and 2 damage. Wow, he just does 2 damage all the way besides his death, his missile weapon. So all his melee weapons do 2 damage each. Nasty, and that's nice rend. So, Bone Harvest. Roll a dice each time a model is slain within 3 inches of this model. On a 4+, you can pick one friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit within 6 inches of this model. If you do so, and the slain model has a wound characteristic of 4 or less, you can heal 1 wound allocated to that unit. If the slain model had a wound characteristic of 5 to 9, you can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to that unit. Or if the slain model had a wound characteristic of 10 or more, you can heal up to D6 wounds allocated to that unit. If there are no wounds allocated to the unit you pick, you can return a number of slain models to that unit with a combined wounds characteristic that is equal to or less than the number of wounds you could have healed. Cool. So he's a behemoth you want, right? Soul Crusher Bludgeons do, if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with Soul Crusher Bludgeons is 6, that attack inflicts 2 mortal wounds on the target and the attack sequence ends. Versus the Soul Cleaver Sickles, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with Soul Reaver Sickles if the target has 5 or more models. Which one to choose? I like the option of hitting easier. That's 2+. With 6 attacks initially. 6 attacks, 2+, 3+, rend -2, 2 damage. That will do so much damage to a unit. I like that. Versus the unmodified roll for an attack made with Soul Crusher Bludgeons is 6. That attack deals 4 and inflicts 2 mortal wounds. Now he has 6 attacks initially, so that's 1, 6, so 2 mortal wounds, generally. Unless you're lucky, and you get maybe up to 6 mortal wounds on the target. But it says roll a dice each time a model is slain within 3 inches of this model. So you want to be slaying models. And it feels like you will be doing that a lot with the Soul Cleaver Sickles. Because you're just going to hit so much on weak little guys and do 2 damage. I think that's what I would go with. Rend -2. That's really nasty. Alright. The Endless Spells. Alright. Nightmare Predator. This is a predatory endless spell. It can move up to 2d6 inches and can fly. Summoning it has a casting value of 7. Only Ossiarch Bonereapers wizards can attempt to cast this spell. If successfully cast, set up a Nightmare Predator model wholly within 6 inches of the caster and visible to them. This spell is soul-linked to the caster. When predatory endless spells are moved at the start of the battle round, any that are soul-linked to a caster are moved first, followed by any endless spells that are not. Soul-linked spells are always moved by the player whose army includes the caster the spell is soul-linked to. The player that won the roll-off to determine who moves an endless spell first must move all their soul-linked spells first, followed by their opponent. You must subtract 1 from casting rolls for a wizard that is soul-linked to an endless spell. A caster cannot be soul-linked to more than 1 endless spell at the same time. If the caster is slain, then any endless spell that they are soul-linked to is dispelled. So its abilities are Perpetual Hunter. When this model is set up, the player who set it up can pick 1 enemy hero as its prey, and then immediately make a move with this model. If this model's prey is destroyed, this model is dispelled. Death Incarnate. After this model moves, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of it. On a 2+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If that unit was this model's prey, on a 2+, it suffers D6 mortal wounds instead of D3 mortal wounds. Ossiarch Bonereaper units are not affected by this ability. So a predatory spell that runs around slaughtering things with a casting value of 7. Neat. Soul Stealer Carrion. It is also a predatory spell, and it can move up to 16 inches and can fly. To summon it is a casting value of 6. Only Ossiarch Bonereaper wizards can summon it. It can be placed anywhere on the battlefield that is visible to the caster. Nice. It is also soul linked and has the same effects as what we just read. Soul Thief. Its ability is, at the end of each phase, roll a dice of if any chaos, destruction, or order models were slain within 6 inches of this model during that phase. On a 1 to 2, heal 1 wound allocated to the caster soul linked to this model. On a 3 to 4, inflict 1 mortal wound on each chaos, destruction, order, or unit. Chaos, destruction, or order unit within 6 inches of this model. On 5 to 6, do both of these things. Also, anything visible to this model is also visible to the caster that is soul linked to this model. It's casting value of 6. If you have an important wizard, that would be pretty neat. And Bone Tithe Shrieker. Another predatory spell. It can move up to 8 inches and can fly. Summoned. Casting value of 5. Only Ossiarch Bonereapers can cast the spell. And if successfully cast, set up the Shrieker model wholly within 12 inches of the caster and visible to them. It is soul linked. And its abilities are subtract 1 from the bravery of units while they are within 12 inches of this model. The Ossiarch Bonereaper units are not affected by this ability. Not that it matters, because they don't roll morale. Well, not that it matters as much. Anyway, no escape. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by Ossiarch Bonereapers that target a unit that is within 12 inches of this model. Neat. And the points on those endless spells are the Bone Tithe Shrieker was 30 points, the Soul Stealer Carrion is 20 points, and the Nightmare Predator, the one that likes to go run around hitting things while it's prey, are 40 points. Ooh, the Bone Tithe Nexus is free. Look at that. Oh, I was not planning on going through the Bone Tithe Nexus, but the terrain piece doesn't specify how you put it on the battlefield, so let's just do that. When you choose an Ossiarch Bonereapers army, you can include 1 Bone Tithe Nexus. When terrain is set up for the battle, any Bone Tithe Nexuses must be set up by the player whose army they are part of, before any other terrain features are set up, more than 3 inches from any objectives, and more than 6 inches from the edge of the battlefield. Set up the rest of the terrain as described in the core rules. If both players can set up terrain features before any other terrain features are set up, the players must roll off and the winner chooses who sets up their terrain features first. Okay, so that's a bit different. You have to include this as one of your choices for I guess the terrain. Instead of it being an additional terrain, you have to choose this one as one of your terrain pieces. All right. And I believe I covered most everything here. Except for this, of course. The Ossiarch Bonereapers allies are none. That's right. They don't even want other ghosts around, or other death around. Their allies are none. Okay, well, guess I can't add them to my night haunt. None. Gee, guys. Well, that was awesome. Well, they are awesome and so fearsome. Oh my gosh, they're gonna just keep on coming back. Just like death. And I am quite sad that they don't want any allies. Not even a little bit. Oh, I wonder though, now that they're out, maybe... I mean, I know that in some cases they don't like to take allies, but perhaps they can be allies. I could have to check to see if there's any changes. Yes, I would like to see if I can put them in Nighthaunt because they're so vicious. On the other hand, they really look like they have great synergy working together as a unit, so I don't know so much about the allies. You can only use the ones that are 400 points or less in 2,000 point armies, so I don't know. But they are vicious and so spiny. There seems to be a little bit of unfairness going on here. Some powerful wizards and all these abilities that allow them to bring back the dead. My Nighthaunt do that, but I don't know. There's one that just gives 3. You don't have to cast it. It's just there you go. 3 health or 3 wounds every turn. Ouch. Well, if you liked the video, give us a like, and if you'd like to see more unboxings and Battletome reviews of Age of Sigmar and other wargaming material, subscribe to our channel and hit that bell notification. See you around, bye!